Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of One Piece with the ultimate bounty hunter system. How is he gonna change One Piece?
Build, wearing a white cloak, walked out of the cabin. Upon seeing him appear, all the pirates immediately stood up and gave up the best spots. As soon as the man sat down, his men immediately brought him fine wine. As he drank, he said, "That vulture guy has been going too far lately." The captain spoke, and the pirates on deck immediately echoed him. "Exactly. Doesn't he realize that without you, Captain, he wouldn't be alive today? That bastard even dared to order us around. Next time we see him, we'll break his leg. If you ask me, we should just kill that kid." The pirates chatted and laughed, completely disregarding the Marine branch captain. The man downed his wine in one gulp, and when he heard his men discussing how to kill Colonel Varacher in the most ruthless way, he smiled and shook his head. "Find a chance to beat him up. Keep him alive, or the Navy headquarters will definitely send a new colonel who might be a troublesome fellow." Colonel Varacher was incredibly greedy, but he was also very pragmatic and extremely useful. He's been having such a smooth time lately that he's lost his sense of proportion. It's good to teach him a lesson. The pirates were chatting idly when a noise came from the lookout room above. The first mate and the others are back. Soon after, a group of pirates returned to the ship with a large amount of supplies. The first mate walked straight to the man and sat down. "News has come in that a skilled bounty hunter has just landed on Naughty's island." The man frowned. "Another bounty hunter?" Listening to the first mate's description of the man, an interest flashed in his eyes. Coincidentally, it was the same person the Navy had mentioned. However, the intelligence we received was more detailed. He single-handedly wiped out an entire pirate crew without sustaining a scratch from start to finish. This guy is something else. The two of them compiled the information they each knew. The first mate looked thoughtful. "This man boarded the ship on Swaro Island. A lot of pirate crews have been lost there recently. Now it seems that it might not just be the Navy's doing. He appeared on Nautilus Island because he's after the bounty-hunting pirates in the nearby waters, and we could be his targets too." The man nodded in agreement, but there wasn't a trace of worry on his face. "So what if he has some strength? Would he be afraid of a mere bounty hunter?" The first mate continued, "Leaving someone like this on the island is still a bit unsettling, but we're about to set sail, so we probably won't have time to deal with him. Every overseas raid is planned in advance, involving the interests of multiple parties, and the journey cannot be delayed because of a minor character. Let Iron Axe do it. Didn't he want to join us? Bring us that bounty hunter's head, and I'll make him join the White Bear Pirates." Meanwhile, Yelena quietly slipped back into the hotel through the window. She removed her cloak, recalled what had just happened, and made slight adjustments to her plans. The officer named Varacher was clearly less reliable than Colonel Lind, and the overall atmosphere of the naval branch on this island was not as good as the place where she had stayed for several months before. Aside from the bounty settlement, she didn't want to have anything to do with these naval personnel. Without intelligence from the naval system, she would have to personally gather information about pirates in the future. For the next period of time, I need to choose a place to stay that is convenient for daily training, but not too far from people. Yelena changed into her everyday clothes, slung her violin case over her shoulder, and left the hotel. Following the directions she got from the hotel owner, she planned to go to the residential area to see if there were any suitable houses for sale or rent. As Yelena passed a tavern, a look of interest flashed in her eyes. She immediately changed direction and turned to walk inside. The tavern was quite large, about 300 or 400 square meters, with dozens of tables filled with people. Yelena couldn't find a seat, and she couldn't even squeeze in at the bar, so she could only walk to the wall and carefully examine the bounty poster on it. Polar Bear, Warhammer, Boulder, Mad Dog. They were all notorious pirates in the surrounding waters. Have you heard? Iron Axe challenged White Bear not long ago. In the tavern, someone, having had a few drinks, started showing off the news he'd heard to the people at the next table. Really? Who won? Of course, it's Captain Polar Bear. He's a legendary devil fruit user. Even the Marines aren't a match for him. All the captains under his command defected after being defeated by him, and Iron Axe should be no exception. Yes, including the merchants and nobles associated with them. The White Bear pirates are growing bigger and bigger. If they continue like this, who can destroy them? SHH. You can't say things like that. The sounds from the tavern gradually reached Yelena's ears, and as she listened, her expression changed. The White Bear pirates. It sounds very familiar. Before coming to Notties Island, Colonel Lind mentioned that their size and strength were among the best in the entire North Sea. Of course, he was referring to the One Piece fandom. The merchant ship they arrived on also had an ambiguous relationship with this pirate crew. Captain Big Bear even tried to scare away the enemy with the name of the White Bear, though he was unsuccessful. Thinking of this, Yelena couldn't help but pause slightly. Is that guy reliable? The next morning, Yelena arrived at the dock on time and found the agreed location, where Captain Big Beard was being helped by several of his men and was waiting there. You've arrived. Compared to yesterday, his mental state was worse now. His voice trembled, and cold sweat occasionally broke out on his face. The pirate ship and weapons have already been sold. There are too many people and too many eyes around here. It's not suitable to bring them. Please come back with me to the ship to get them. Yelena's eyes, hidden beneath her hood, scrutinized him carefully. You seem a little nervous. The bearded man looked miserable, wishing he could tear himself to pieces from yesterday. Serves you right for being so talkative. Yesterday, when he went to the black market to sell stolen goods, he encountered members of the White Bear pirates. As is customary, these merchant caravans, which have ties to the pirate crew, not only offer tribute when they come to Notties Island, but also report the secret information and special observations they have collected, thus enriching the White Bear pirates' intelligence network. This isn't the first time he's done this. Unexpectedly, shortly after he reported the information, he received orders from above to cooperate with the Iron Axe pirates and take down the black-robed bounty hunter. Did you make a mistake? Shall we send him to deal with his benefactor? Details. There is no psychological burden. The key is to prevent him from getting directly involved. But he couldn't refuse the orders from above. Pirates weren't exactly reasonable people. If they dared to disobey, they'd be killed on the spot. Looking at his savior, Big Beard's mind kept flashing back to images of the man killing people, and his legs suddenly went weak. No, don't be nervous. Ouch. It's just that my injury from before hasn't healed yet. Let's go, let's get the money. Chapter 23, Who is the Prey? Yelena didn't ask any further questions and nodded. Lead the way. Captain Big Beard breathed a sigh of relief. He patted his man on the shoulder, signaling him to carry him on his back. The group walked through the bustling pier and arrived at the beach on the west side. The further they walked, the fewer people they saw. The bearded man would occasionally glance back to make sure the people behind him were keeping up. He tried to observe Yelena's expression, but could only see the dark hood and couldn't guess whether she suspected anything. To ease the tension, he talked a lot along the way, Sir, we are almost there. There are many merchant ships coming and going at the dock. After loading and unloading cargo, the ships are not allowed to stay at the dock for too long. That's why I had someone move the ship to the front. After we get the money for you, we will continue our voyage. After crossing the beach, there is a pile of rocks ahead. Yelena looked up and saw the merchant ship anchored on the sea not far from the pile of rocks. She carefully examined her surroundings. These oddly shaped stones were enormous, and from her perspective, she couldn't see anything hidden behind them. The bearded man looked back again and found Yelena standing at the edge of the reef area, not taking a single step forward. His heart skipped a beat. Could this person have actually discovered something? But having already arrived here, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, "Sir, look, the merchant ship is right there. Small boats have been prepared on the beach. Let's hurry over there." Yelena stared at the tense-looking bearded man, a hoarse laugh escaping from under his hood. "Heh, wait here. If you honestly hand over the money, I might spare your life." The bearded man's pupils dilated in shock, his fingers gripping his subordinate's shoulders tightly. What did you say? I don't understand. Sir, let's go quickly. The waves will get too high, and it will be difficult to sail. He tried to make a last-ditch effort. Yelena did not reply. She glanced at a certain rock and turned to back away. Sir. HMPH. Useless. Can't even do this simple thing right. A burly man with a dark complexion emerged from behind the rocks. He raised his axe and roared, "Chase him. Don't let that guy get away." At the burly man's command, dozens of pirates rushed out from the pile of rocks and followed him in pursuit of Yelena. The bearded man lost his balance and slipped off his subordinate's shoulder. It was too late to escape, so he could only tremble and beg for mercy from the burly man who was getting closer and closer. "Captain Iron Axe, this really isn't my fault. I almost led them into an ambush. Who would have thought he'd already gotten this far, and yet—" Puff. Before he could finish pleading for mercy, a gleaming axe swiftly swept across the bearded man's neck. Iron Axe sneered and sheathed his weapon. His casual strike did not slow his steps in the slightest. Anyone who dares to delay his important business doesn't deserve to live in this world. Yelena did not return the way she came. As she ran, she turned and entered the woods north of the beach. When Iron Axe and his men caught up, they could no longer see their target. "Boss, what do we do?" "He can't have gone far. Go after him." Iron Axe charged into the woods first, his eyes filled with a burning desire to complete the mission. That black-robed bounty hunter was the key to whether he could join the White Bear Pirates. We must not let him escape. Yelena stood silently on a tree branch, watching the group of pirates run wildly through the forest until the last one ran past the tree, at which point she finally breathed a sigh of relief. "You scared me. I thought the polar bear pirates had come in person." Yelena knew her own limitations. With her current strength, she was no match for the renowned White Bear Pirates. Upon realizing they were lying in ambush, her first instinct was to run. While listening to people chatting at the tavern yesterday, she remembered the bearded captain with whom she had an agreement and guessed that he might report what happened during the voyage to the White Bear Pirates. But she still came today. She felt that as a novice hunter, she shouldn't be targeted by a major pirate crew. After all, she had no conflict with Polar Bear and had even saved a merchant ship connected to him. Of course, there are a few other reasons as well. They couldn't bear to part with the money from selling ships and weapons. Pirate ships aren't cheap. You can make a small fortune by selling them at a discount. With this mindset in mind, she remained highly vigilant on her way to collect the money with the bearded captain. prepared to retreat immediately if things went wrong. And indeed, they encountered an ambush. To their surprise and delight, the people lying in ambush were not the White Bear pirates. Watching the pirates' retreating figures, Yelena drew her longsword and quietly followed them. "I can't beat the polar bear, but I can beat you, Iron Axe." After landing, Yelena deliberately kept quiet as she gradually approached the pirates who were running at the back. "Hurry up. The boss is about to get angry." Hearing his companions urging him on, the last pirate, panting heavily, cursed inwardly. "I'm a pirate, not a bandit. I'm good at swimming, but not good at riding a horse." Just as he felt his lungs were about to explode, a hand reached out from behind and quickly covered his mouth. The pirate shuddered, and before he could even struggle, a sharp pain suddenly shot through his back. He tried to break free, but found that his strength was nothing in the eyes of the person behind him. He couldn't break free even a little bit before his consciousness completely disappeared. "Hey," I said, "hurry up." The pirate in second to last place turned to urge his companions on, but as soon as he turned around, a black hand reached straight for his throat, silencing him. Yelena tightened her fingers, and a slight cracking sound came from her hand. The pirate in her hand immediately fell silent, following in the footsteps of her companion who had left the world before her. With her speed and strength far exceeding that of ordinary people, Yelena silently dispatched more than a dozen pirates. Those ahead were only focused on following their leader and were completely unaware that their fighting strength was constantly decreasing. After sprinting through the mountains for more than 10 minutes, even the fittest Iron Axe was slightly out of breath, but they still couldn't find a trace of their target. He had some doubts. Was that guy really up ahead? "Stop. Don't chase them anymore. If we keep chasing like this, we won't find them even by nightfall. That damn monkey. It's really good at hiding." Iron Axe stopped in his tracks and, in a fit of rage, swung his weapon at a large tree beside him. Boom! A tree so large it would take 2 people to hug was snapped in half. It fell heavily to one side. Staring at the results before him, Iron Axe smiled with satisfaction. Once he found that damned bounty hunter, he would chop him in two with a single axe blow. Minions first. As soon as he turned around, Iron Axe's smile froze on his face. The pirate closest to him was taken aback and looked in the direction of the captain's gaze. "Hiss." The pirate's pupils trembled violently, and his face was filled with disbelief. Dozens of meters away, a person wearing a black cloak pierced their companion's chest with a sword. Behind the shadowy figure, almost every 10 meters or so, there was a person lying in a pool of blood. Chapter 20, For Iron Axe. Yelena pulled the sword from the pirate's chest, and when she looked up, dozens of eyes were staring intently at her. It was discovered so quickly. Generally speaking, don't you only expose your presence when you reach the very front? Sigh, those movies from my past life were deceiving me. Yelena tossed the corpse aside, no longer controlling her rhythm or movement, and swung her sword at the 2 pirates closest to her. "That bastard was following us." Iron Axe's face flushed red, his anger almost bursting from his skin. He gripped his 2 large axes tightly and roared as he charged towards Yelena. The other pirates turned around and followed suit, those with swords flanking the enemy from both sides, and those with guns firing on the spot. Gunshots rang out one after another. Yelena remained calm and composed, flicking her wrist to hold the pirate she had just killed upright in front of her. Bang, bang. More than a dozen guns fired at the same time, but only 2 shots hit the meat shield. The others either hit the ground or struck the tree trunks behind it. Yelena shook her head. With that kind of shooting skill, what kind of pirate could she be? Seeing that their first round of attacks had failed to injure their target, the gunmen shifted their positions and moved to other spots to continue aiming. Yelena drew her longsword, then used her left hand to carry the meat shield, braving the pirates' ranged attacks as she took the initiative to approach. She swiftly reached the nearest gunman, and to his horrified surprise, pierced his heart with a single sword thrust. Sheathed his sword, and without pausing, continued charging toward the next gunman. Just as he dealt with two pirates, Iron Axe's broad figure rushed in front of him, and even faster than him were the two large axes in his hands, which cleaved down towards Yelena's head. Go to hell. Faced with the furious blow from the iron axe, Yelena did not choose to fight head-on. Instead, she threw out her meat shield and ducked to the side. The great axe cleaved through the obstacles, but there was no sign of the enemy in sight. What? Help, Captain! The screams rang out again, and Iron Axe turned his head to look, his eyes burning with even greater rage. Despicable bounty hunter. Unable to confront him directly, he actually attacked his subordinates again. Come at me one-on-one, if you dare. Yelena ignored the shouts behind her. This was not the time for a fair fight. She knew her purpose very well, to eliminate as much of the enemy's manpower as possible and reduce the threat. Eliminating the pirate gunmen is a higher priority than eliminating their captains. Yelena picked up her meat shield again and hunted down the gunmen around her, while Iron Axe chased after her with all his might, always a step behind her. A pirate with a sword rushed to the vicinity and saw that the bounty hunter happened to have his back to him. His face immediately lit up with joy, and he held his breath and slashed at the man with all his might. Swish! A flash of light appeared in the woods, and before his raised hands could fall, his throat was severed, and he collapsed helplessly to the ground. Yelena didn't even glance at the pirate she had casually killed, and continued to move her body. Pirate swordsmen would approach from both sides from time to time, but none of them could defeat her in a single blow. If she was lucky, she would be repelled and survive. If she was unlucky, she would die on the spot. Thump! Some pirates stopped in their tracks, staring wide-eyed at what lay ahead in disbelief, not even noticing the knife slipping from their hands and falling to the ground. One by one, his comrades fell. Those who used to slaughter civilians with impunity are now the ones being slaughtered. Looking at the scene before him, he no longer felt the excitement he used to feel when he saw blood. Only fear filled his heart. Ah! The pirate turned and fled. The collapse of morale often happens in an instant. Seeing that some people were running away, the remaining pirates, except for a few who were extremely loyal to Iron Axe, did not hesitate at all and scattered to escape in all directions. The mountains and forests are vast. There's absolutely no way that Bounty Hunter could capture them all. Just as they had thought, Yelena hesitated whether to give chase or not. If these terrified pirates escaped into the city, innocent people might be harmed. Some people reacted even more strongly than she did. Seeing his men flee in disarray, Iron Axe roared, "All of you come back here." The pirates, who used to tremble at the sound of his curses, were now driven by even greater fear. None of them took his orders seriously anymore. The louder he shouted, the faster they fled. In the blink of an eye, he had run 20 or 30 meters. Seeing this, Iron Axe's anger towards the traitor even surpassed that of the bounty hunter who was slaughtering his men. Whirlwind! With a roar, Iron Axe sent his right axe flying from his hand, swirling in the air as he quickly caught up with the pirate running ahead. Whoosh! Blood gushed out instantly. After killing one person, the axe continued its momentum, tracing an arc through the forest, swish, swish, swish. Several more streams of blood splattered. Finally, the axe, which had spun a large circle in the air, returned to its original position. Iron Axe sneered and threw the axe in his other hand in the same way. A few seconds later, there were no more subordinates who had deserted their posts. Yelena. He's a ruthless person. Should she thank the other person? Yelena's eyes flashed with surprise. This move was quite powerful. No wonder this guy had such a large bounty on his head. He was indeed not as easy to deal with as he looked. However, the other party inadvertently helped them, saving them the time of chasing after those who had escaped. Thinking this, her speed was not affected, and the blade accurately struck the throat of the next pirate gunman. Just as she sheathed her sword, a whooshing sound came from behind her. Yelena's expression tightened, and she quickly ducked down. Whoosh, whoosh. Two axes swept across overhead, one after the other. Yelena easily dodged the attack, but the pirates around her were in big trouble. Without exception, everyone in the trajectory of the axe was cut in half at the waist. Iron Axe caught the flying weapon steadily, and looking at his subordinates who had been accidentally injured, no, accidentally killed, his eyes showed no change. These useless trash are all incompetent. They can't even hold back the enemy's advance. They're just a waste of food if they're alive. Once he defeats that damned bounty hunter and successfully joins the White Bear pirates, he will have even stronger allies. HMPH, not bad reaction. If you're so capable, then keep hiding. Iron Axe swung his weapon again, and at the same time leaped closer to the target. Through his previous observations, he discovered that the black-robed bounty hunter was very fast, even faster than him, but far less powerful. Each time he killed someone, he would either pierce their heart or slit their throat, yet none of his men were ever killed by having their bodies cut open. Iron Axe sneered, "What's the use of flashy swordsmanship? It cannot stir up any waves in the face of overwhelming power. He may have countless chances to make mistakes, but his opponent only has one. Once his axe strikes, it will be a fatal blow." Previously, he was worried about accidentally killing his own comrades, so he could only chase after the enemy. Now, he is the only one left standing in the entire Iron Axe pirates, and he can use his skills freely without any restrictions. Whoosh, whoosh. Two axes whistled as they approached from the left and right, one above and one below, aiming at Yelena's head and legs respectively. It was no longer possible for her to duck and dodge as before. She could only retreat backward. Missing his first strike, Iron Axe picked up a huge piece of wood from the ground and hurled it with all his might. This attack was even more powerful, and Yelena dodged again. After being delayed twice, Iron Axe had already rushed to the vicinity, and the two large axes were back in his hands at some point. Die. Chapter 25, Pirates Say, Be Down to Earth. Iron Axe grinned menacingly, his arms bulging instantly as he channeled all his strength into this single strike, certain that his opponent would be unable to withstand it. Yelena had barely regained her footing when two blood-stained axes came crashing down on her head. The timing of this attack was perfect. There was no time to retreat and dodge. Then I won't hide. Yelena gripped the sword hilt tightly with both hands, swung her sword to meet the attack, and decided to test the pirate captain's mettle. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed through the forest. The instant their weapons clashed, a blast of air erupted from it, turning into a gale that swept outwards, scattering dust and fallen leaves everywhere. An immense force emanated from the sword, causing Yelena's arms to go numb and almost causing her to lose her grip on the hilt. Pushed by Yuli, her legs moved backward uncontrollably for more than 10 steps until her back hit a tree trunk, barely managing to stop herself. Iron Axe wasn't in much better shape. He was thrown off his feet and crashed to the ground, where he lay among the withered branches and fallen leaves. In a direct confrontation, neither of them gained the upper hand. Cough, cough, tui, tui. Iron Axe got up from the ground, spitting out the leaves and dust he had accidentally ingested, his eyes fixed on the enemy in the distance, his face turning extremely ugly. He never expected that the guy opposite him was almost as strong as him. The pain in his hand was a reminder that his chances of winning this battle were not as high as he had previously expected. Yelena rubbed her sore back, held her sword horizontally in front of her, and charged towards her target in a thrusting stance. She moved with incredible speed, covering dozens of meters in the blink of an eye, and arrived in front of Iron Axe with the tip of her sword pointed directly at his throat. Clang! The sword tip pierced the axe blade, leaving a clear dent. The fatal attack was blocked, but the force of the attack was not exhausted. The longsword pierced the axe and slammed it hard into the dark face of the Iron Axe, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Ouch! You bastard! Just as Yelena was about to sheath her sword, Iron Axe grabbed another axe and chopped it down at her side. If this attack hits, it will definitely turn Yelena into a monster. She quickly jumped up. While still in midair, his left hand swiftly swept across his waist, revealing a dark brown pistol in his palm. He aimed it at Iron Axe's eyes and pulled the trigger. Boom! Almost at the same time, the gunshot rang out. Tai Fu, whose expression changed drastically, desperately tilted his head to one side. The bullet pierced through the tip of his ear in an instant. Tusk! Disappointment flashed in Yelena's eyes. She wanted to fire a second shot, but the enemy didn't give her the chance. The sharp axe came down again. She swung her sword to block, and then the force of the enemy's attack landed smoothly on her feet. Iron Axe's ear was pierced, but he did not retreat an inch. The injury aroused his ferocity. He swung his two large axes and roared as he charged towards Yelena. The sounds of metal clashing echoed through the mountains and forests, and as the battle progressed, the surrounding environment underwent some changes. Wherever the two passed, the surrounding trees were affected by the battle, either being cut in half by giant axes or pierced through the trunks by sharp blades. Whirlwind! After several rounds of combat, Yelena had become familiar with the enemy's fighting style. Facing the giant axe that was spinning and flying closer and closer, she neither dodged nor avoided it, but charged straight at the Iron Axe. Whoosh, whoosh. As expected, the axe was a step slower than her, flying past her in a crisscross pattern. Iron Axe wanted to sheath his weapon and fight again as before, but Yelena didn't give him the chance. She pushed her speed to the limit and pointed her sword at his throat once more. Just as the attack was about to hit, her eyes flickered, and she suddenly remembered something, so she changed the trajectory of her attack. The blow that was meant to pierce Iron Axe's throat instead struck his chest. Puff! The blade pierced through the chest cavity without any resistance and emerged from behind. Just then, the whooshing sound reached their ears again. It turned out that the two axes that had been thrown out were about to return to their original positions. However, given the current state of the Iron Axe, it is impossible to retrieve them. Just as he was about to be struck by her own attack, Yelena kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying. Bang! The axes collided in midair, lost momentum, and crashed to the ground. Iron Axe lay on the ground, clutching his chest, a look of disbelief appearing on his face, contorted with pain. You cough, cough. Why? Why did you hold back? Answer me one question first, then I'll tell you the answer. I heard you fought the polar bear. What is his true strength? How many moves did it take him to defeat you? Iron Axe understood the hidden meaning in Yelena's words, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. You want to hunt down Captain Polar Bear. Cough, cough. Don't dream about it. That man. Cough, cough. That man is invincible. No one can defeat him. Yelena walked up to Iron Axe, looking down at him. Invincible. How does he compare to Kaido of the Beasts? Does he have a record of defeating a Marine Admiral? Could he be even stronger than Whitebeard? The Beasts. General. Whitebeard. Iron Axe stared blankly, bewildered by the questions, and even forgot to cough. After regaining his senses, he looked at Yelena, his lips twitched, and his expression was indescribable. Due to be a pirate, no, a bounty hunter, you have to be down to earth. Look at the people you've mentioned. If the polar bear is so powerful, why is he still hanging around in Beihai? They should have gone and conquered the Grand Line long ago. One strike. Didn't you 8? Speak louder. Iron Axe, enraged, retorted, Captain Whitebear defeated me with a single blow. He was utterly powerless. You have absolutely no chance of defeating him. I see. Getting back to the point, the reason I didn't kill you. Let me think, it's probably because I killed too many people today, and my heart softened. You dare to play dirty tricks on me. Yelena kicked him in the head, knocking him unconscious. Why did you show mercy? Of course, it was because she suddenly remembered that she had used up all the item usage attempts for the month, and there was still half a month until the 1st of next month. If she killed the person now, she wouldn't be able to obtain any attributes. That's such a loss. What should we do with him? Lock them up somewhere for half a month, then kill them. Thinking of this, Yelena shook her head. No, it's too troublesome and too torturous. Many pirates have died at her hands, but none of them were tortured to death. She is not a pervert. After standing there thinking for a while, she actually came up with a solution. To prevent Iron Axe from waking up prematurely, Yelena kicked him on the head again and finally picked up the axe from the ground and started digging a hole. Her excellent character was that she was in charge of both killing and burying the dead. Now she is quite strong, and it doesn't take her long to dig a pit several meters wide under a tree. After sealing the tombstone with soil, Yelena casually stuck a piece of wood into the ground as a tombstone, clapped her hands, and looked at her masterpiece with satisfaction. Don't be a pirate in your next life. It's a dead end. Yelena tied the pirate's weapons securely with vines, picked up Iron Axe by the arm, and dragged him toward the sea. Reaching the edge of the forest, Yelena hid behind a tree and looked at the pile of rocks not far away. Several people with swords were loitering nearby, and on the distant sea, the merchant ships had not yet left. These guys should be the remaining members of the Iron Axe pirates. Oh right, I haven't settled accounts with Big Beard yet. That bastard dared to embezzle my money. No, he dared to betray me. He's got some nerve. Chapter 26, My Money. Yelena turned to look at the unconscious Iron Axe, thought for a moment, then kicked him on the head again before tying him to a tree. After doing all that, she went around to the side and came to the back of the pile of rocks, quietly approaching the pirates. So much time has passed. Why haven't they come back yet? Could something have happened to them? Are you drunk? The captain himself went out with so many men. What could possibly go wrong dealing with a bounty hunter? He's probably just lost. Several pirates were chatting idly, unaware that danger was approaching. The pile of rocks they had used to ambush their target was now successfully obstructing their view. What is that? A pirate saw a dark figure dart out from behind the nearest reef and immediately cried out in surprise. The other pirates instinctively gripped their weapons, but it was too late. Puff! Yelena stopped in her tracks. Of the pirates present, only the one who spoke first escaped unharmed. The rest all clutched their throats and collapsed. He looked behind Yelena with trembling eyes, but did not see the captain or the others. His heart sank. "I ask, you answer." A deep, husky voice came from under the hood. Lucky Guy's legs went weak, and he collapsed to the ground, nodding frantically. "How many pirates are still on the merchant ship?" 10. The captain left 10 men to keep an eye on the caravan, to guard against, to prevent them from. The pirates swallowed hard and continued, to prevent them from leaving prematurely out of fear, so you'll notice something's wrong. "Where's my money?" "What money?" "I remember now. It's the money Big Beard prepared. The brothers wanted to divide it, but the captain said to wait until we kill you. No, we'll divide it after we defeat you. It should still be on the merchant ship now." The pirate pointed to the people slumped on the ground not far away, just like him, and said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask them. They came from the ship." Yelena turned her head and saw the bearded man lying in a pool of blood, with his 2 men guarding the body. Whether they were terrified or truly loyal to their captain, it was unclear. Yelena remembered that when she sensed danger and made a strategic retreat earlier, she seemed to have heard screams. Now it seemed that the pirates had killed the man, because they thought the bearded man was not doing his job well. This guy is really unlucky. He has no strength of his own, but he cooperates with vicious pirates. What good can come of it? The 2 caravan members noticed Yelena's gaze and hurriedly nodded. "Sir, the money is on the ship. We'll go get it right away. Please spare us. We really didn't know the captain would betray you. Please don't kill us." As they spoke, the 2 knelt down on the ground, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. The bounty hunter had left a deep impression on them during the night of carnage the day before yesterday, and they could only hope that he wasn't in a killing frenzy today and would spare them. With Big Beard dead, Yelena had no interest in continuing to argue with the caravan members. "You two, bury him and those pirates. Bury them deep." Yelena looked at the pirate Lucky Guy. "You, come with me. Let's go to the ship and get the money." None of them dared to refuse, and they quickly nodded in agreement. The lucky man rowed his small boat quickly toward the merchant ship. The pirate was enormous, over 2 meters tall, and Yelena, who was less than 1.7 meters tall, sat behind him, completely obscured. From the direction of the merchant ship, she was nowhere to be seen. As the small boat approached the merchant ship, Yelena quickly plunged into the water and swam towards the other side of the merchant ship. "Why are you back? Did the captain and the others take care of that guy?" Some pirates were drinking on the deck. Hearing the noise, they leaned out to look at Lucky Guy. "Done, done. The captain told me to come back for more wine. Then we should celebrate properly. I'm off." "What?" A scream suddenly came from the merchant ship, followed by more screams. The lucky man slumped on the small boat, clutching his head, his face pale and filled with fear. Boom! The small boat suddenly rocked. He slowly looked up and saw the bounty hunter standing opposite him, holding a sword in one hand and a box in the other. "So, let's row the boat, and we'll let you go once we get ashore." "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Yelena plunged the sword into the seawater and stirred it a few times until the bloodstains were washed away, before bringing it up for a closer look. There are more than a dozen nicks on the blade, some the size of a grain of rice, and some large enough to fit a finger on. The curve at the tip has also lost its smoothness, with a corner broken off. After her battle with the iron axe, her weapon was nearing the point of needing to be forged and repaired. To restore it to its original state, it would cost at least 300,000 berries. Yelena sighed. Fighting costs money. She wondered, if Zorro didn't carry a famous sword when he set sail, would he be worthy of being called a swordsman? Speaking of money, Yelena looked at the lucky rowers and asked, "Where's your boat?" If we take the Iron Axe pirate's ship to the black market, we should be able to get a good price for it. The lucky guy guessed that this big shot had his eye on their ship and hurriedly explained. The captain sold the ship for scrap. Recently, it first fought with the Navy, and many of its cabins were destroyed by cannon fire. Later, it clashed with the #1 ship of the White Bear pirates, and that woman broke its keel with a hammer. Thinking about what had happened before, the lucky guy suddenly shuddered. If Polar Bear hadn't happened to be there and stopped that woman after defeating our captain, the entire ship would probably have been smashed to pieces on the spot. Yelena sighed. Well, the windfall was gone. The Iron Axe pirates have been completely destroyed. Change your profession and don't be a pirate anymore. After getting off the small boat, Yelena left a message, and without paying attention to Lucky's reaction, headed straight for the woods to the north. She arrived at the tree where the iron axe was tied and found that the person was still unconscious. She nodded in satisfaction at the few kicks. Lifting her up again, Yelena crossed the beach and the bustling dock, arriving at the naval branch on Knotty's Island amidst the gasps of passers-by. Yes, she planned to hand the iron axe over to the Navy. According to the Navy's procedures for handling criminals, even if Iron Axe were to be executed in public, it would still take a long time. For at least the next 2 weeks, he will be locked up in jail. The blood has been collected. As long as Iron Axe is still alive before the 1st of next month, it will not affect the use of the item. Outside the branch headquarters, in front of numerous civilians and reporters, Colonel Varacha wore a forced smile and looked at Yelena with adoration. You are the Navy's most important ally and a partner of justice. On behalf of the entire island of Nautilus, I sincerely express my gratitude to you. His heart was bleeding. Yesterday's 12 million berries haven't been settled yet, and today this bastard sent over another pirate worth 32 million berries. This is all his money. Why should we give it to that damn bounty hunter? What is that polar bear good for? Why haven't they killed him yet? Chapter 27. They're both watching each other. Don't worry, we will definitely collect the bounty in half a month and deliver it to you along with yesterday's share. As expected, after detaining the pirates, Colonel Varacha did not take out the money and still planned to delay for a while. Yelena wasn't in a hurry. In front of so many witnesses, the Navy wouldn't deny it. She nodded and turned to leave. Colonel Varacha returned to his office with a cold expression and immediately dialed the Den Mushy to contact Polar Bear. When are you going to send someone to deal with that bounty hunter? He captured Iron Axe today. If you keep dragging this out, which pirate will it be tomorrow? What? Iron Axe was defeated. The Polar Bear's voice was somewhat surprised. 32 million berries. What makes the head of that trash pirate defeated by a bounty hunter worth? Wait, Iron Axe seems to have a close relationship with you. Could he be the one you sent to kill that guy? A hint of embarrassment flashed across Baiqing's face. How could he possibly admit to something so shameful? I don't know him. We'll talk about the bounty hunter thing when we get back to base. You go and handle it yourself first. He had some understanding of Iron Axe's strength. Even this guy had been defeated by that person. Among his subordinates, apart from the captains of the first and second ships, the others would probably be easy targets. The Iron Axe pirates hadn't even joined them yet, so their deaths were no big deal. He had no need to send his own men to help the Navy deal with such a powerful figure. Colonel Varacha grew anxious, his voice suddenly becoming much louder. You're not on Knotty's Island. When are you returning? That guy will be here to collect his bounty in half a month. What the hell is this to me? After saying that, the Polar Bear immediately cut off contact. He summoned the first mate, Pass the word to our crew remaining on the island to keep a low profile for now and not provoke that guy. I'll deal with him myself when we get back." Having worked together for many years, the first mate immediately guessed what the polar bear was thinking. "You want to recruit him?" The polar bear laughed heartily. "What's wrong with that? Don't forget, the captain of ship number 3 used to be a bounty hunter too, and he joined us later, didn't he?" The first mate nodded. "That's right. This guy is stronger than we expected. He's qualified to join the White Bear Pirates." Then he changed the subject. "What if they refuse? Then I'll smash his head in with my own hands." The polar bear's eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Those he approves of either join his ranks or perish at sea. There is no other choice." Bang! Colonel Varacher slammed the Den Mushy to the ground, and still not satisfied, kicked over the cabinet. Damn pirates! After his anger subsided somewhat, he picked up another Den Mushy and applied for funding from headquarters. With so many people watching today, the Iron Axe pirates might be defeated in tomorrow morning's newspapers. As long as the bounty hunter is still alive, he can't keep this money like he did before. Giving away tens of millions of Pelés like that is worse than killing him. Yelena returned to town, but instead of going to a hotel immediately, she walked down the street to a weapons shop. Bang! The swords and spears seized from the pirates amounted to a large bundle, along with 2 large axes, which were placed on the floor of the weapon shop, causing the entire shop to shake several times. The shop owner was dozing off at the counter when he heard the noise and was immediately awakened. "How much are these worth?" Just as he was about to get angry upon hearing the black-robed man's words, his expression changed, and he instantly broke into a wide smile. "A big business opportunity is coming your way." He went to the pile of weapons and examined them carefully. Apart from some chips on the axes and a few swords, the rest were intact. "Oh dear, these weapons are no good anymore. I guess they'll just be scrap metal if I take them back." The shop owner's tone was full of disdain, belittling the weapons to the extreme. Yelena knew he wanted to lower the price, so she didn't respond. She just watched him quietly, her fingers gently stroking the hilt of the sword. An invisible pressure gradually appeared in the store. "I think they're only worth." The shop owner was spouting nonsense when suddenly his shoulder twitched, as if someone had grabbed his throat, and he couldn't say anything more. He looked up, his face beaming. Sorry. I was half asleep just now, cough, cough. These treasures you brought are worth a total of 150 million berries." Seeing that Yelena remained silent, he became even more sincere. "This is already very close to the store's wholesale price for weapons. I absolutely did not overcharge you by even 1 billy. He actually made quite a bit of money, but compared to other people who came to sell second-hand weapons, the price he offered was absolutely fair. "Could you repair this sword for me? How many days will it take?" 5 days. After watching the guests leave, the shop owner reached up and wiped his head, his palm covered in cold sweat. "This guy is not someone to mess with." "That's right. What kind of good person would openly bring stolen goods to sell?" Yelena jumped out of the window with the money and returned to the hotel. She packed all her luggage, changed into her everyday clothes, and went to check out. "I found a new place to live yesterday afternoon and paid a year's rent in one go." She hadn't originally planned to stay on Noti's Island for so long, but yesterday at the tavern, she heard a lot of rumors about the White Bear pirates, which made her very interested in this pirate force that dominated the nearby seas. "Since we're already here, how can we satisfy our thirst for increasing our strength if we don't wipe them out one by one?" The new residence is located on the edge of the city, backed by mountains, quiet and undisturbed. However, the location is not very remote. If you walk 700 or 800 meters past the gate, you will find a residential area. It's also quite convenient to go to the city to buy things or get information. When Yelena pushed open the door, an elderly woman who looked to be in her 70s was cleaning the yard. When the old lady saw her, she quickly put down her tools and reached out to help her carry her luggage. "No need, I can do it," Yelena said with a smile and waved her hand. Her suitcase was no ordinary suitcase. Besides clothes and shoes, it contained a large amount of pesos and gold, as well as hundreds of kilograms of lead blocks. If she accidentally hurts someone's back, she'll have to pay for their medical expenses. After putting the suitcase and violin case into the bedroom, Yelena saw the landlady off. Before leaving, the elderly woman gave her some earnest advice. The security situation on Notties Island isn't very good. A young girl like you from out of town could easily be targeted by bad people. Make sure to lock your door properly at night. If you run into trouble, you can find me at this address. My family has some connections in this area, and we might be able to help you. Yelena smiled gratefully. The landlord was quite nice, even though the rent was very expensive. "Don't worry, I have this. I'm not afraid of bad guys." She lifted her coat to show the landlady the pistol tucked into her belt. Unexpectedly, this action did not send the person away, but instead made them stop in their tracks. Chapter 28: Routine Fertilization and Being Followed. Looking at the pistol at the little girl's waist, the old woman frowned, her tone carrying a hint of disdain. "These two guns are too old-fashioned and won't work." She grabbed Yelena's wrist. "Our family owns a weapons shop in town, run by my son. Let's go there now, and I'll have him pick out some good guns for you." Yelena's eyes showed surprise. No wonder this old lady dared to say that her family had a background. Who would openly run a weapons shop in the city? The landlady extended a sincere invitation, and Yelena did not refuse. With her current skills, a pistol can still play a role in actual combat, at least to harass the enemy. It would be good to change weapons. The two arrived in the city. As they walked, Yelena found the surrounding streets somewhat familiar. She glanced at her landlady and thought, could it be such a coincidence? When she arrived at the store entrance, she couldn't help but twitch the corners of her mouth. It was such a coincidence. Standing in the shop was the weapon shop owner who had tried to scam her before, but failed, and was instead terrified by her. "Mom, what brings you here? And who is this?" The shop owner's gaze swept across Yelena's face, and he quickly made a judgment in his mind. A pretty little girl, not someone powerful. The landlady explained the whole story to the shop owner, who nodded and led Yelena to the gun display area. "The firearms we sell are among the most advanced in the entire North Sea. It's said that even the most elite troops of the Germa Kingdom are equipped with these." As Yelena listened to the boss's boasting, her gaze swept over the few short guns on display, finally settling on a silver revolver. She wasn't a military enthusiast in her previous life and didn't know much about firearms, but she had heard of the reputation of revolvers. This gun is not prone to jamming, and even if it does, it can still be fired. If you encounter a dud, you can skip it, pull the trigger once, and turn the trigger to the next position to continue using it. "How much?" Seeing that Yelena had chosen the most expensive silver revolver among the short guns, the shop owner did not show the joy he would have when he made a big sale. Instead, he tried to persuade her to choose another one. "You have excellent taste. This gun is extremely powerful. Its bullets can easily kill a cow. But it weighs a full 8 kilograms, and the recoil is so strong that even an adult man cannot use it for a long time. It is not suitable for a little girl like you." After all, they were guests brought by his mother, and he couldn't take advantage of them. That's it. Buy 2, wrap them up for me, and give me 200 rounds of ammunition. Yelena held the gun in her hand and weighed it in her hand. It was indeed much heavier than the pistol on her waist. She doesn't intend to reveal her identity as a bounty hunter to the outside world, nor does she want to play dumb to outsmart others. A musical girl traveling on the sea with a certain ability to protect herself fits the character perfectly. What's wrong with carrying 2 large caliber pistols? Maybe one day she'll even carry a cannon out. Asking questions is a form of self-protection. Amidst the shock of the shop owner and his mother, Yelena left with the new weapon. As the landlady said, Notties is not exactly safe. Nobles and merchants had guards to protect them, so few dared to provoke them. The locals knew each other well, and their relationships were complex, so they generally didn't steal from each other. Single girls from out of town, like Yelena, have almost become synonymous with easy targets. Yesterday, while strolling on the street, she noticed that there were subtle gazes falling on her from time to time, and the same thing happened today. The first night in the new house went smoothly. Yelena slept soundly the following night. On the third day, she had just finished showering and was lying in bed thinking about whether there were any areas that needed to be optimized in tomorrow's training plan when she suddenly heard a noise outside. Yelena quickly opened her eyes, picked up the weapon beside her pillow, and got out of bed. She walked to the window, gently pulled the curtains open a crack, and looked down through the glass. By the dim moonlight, 3 dark figures could be vaguely seen climbing over the wall. Yelena didn't know the purpose of the newcomers, but she didn't intend to just watch them sneak into the room. If a fight broke out, the bloodstains would be difficult to clean. She opened the door and quietly went to the living room door on the first floor. Judging from the light footsteps, she guessed that the 3 people had crossed the wall and entered the yard. This house isn't cheap. She must have a lot of money to live here. That old woman is not someone to be trifled with. It's not a good idea to target her tenants, is it? If we don't make a fuss, how will she know who did it? Let's make it clear first. I can take a smaller share of the money, but I have to keep the person. The 3 whispered their secrets, and every word they uttered reached Yelena's ears. She expressionlessly took out her newly bought revolver, which was already fully loaded with ammunition. This is the perfect opportunity. Let her try out the gun. Outside the door, the leader of the dark figures took out a wire from his pocket, precisely inserted it into the keyhole, and skillfully fiddled with it. Click! Hearing the door lock open, a look of delight flashed across the dark figure's face. He turned to his companion and boasted, "How about that? My skills." Before he could finish speaking, his companion's expression suddenly changed. The dark figure shuddered, stiffening its neck as it turned to look at the living room. Hiss! The shadowy figure's pupils suddenly contracted, and 2 dark gun barrels were pointed at him without his noticing. Boom, boom. 2 gunshots rang out, and the 2 people closest to the door instantly had large sprays of blood explode from their chests, their bodies thrown backward by the force of the bullets. Yelena raised an eyebrow. Not bad. She quickly turned her gun and aimed it at the last person. Boom! Yelena, carrying a shovel in one hand and dragging the corpse with the other, went outside the yard, found a tree that wasn't growing well, and started digging a hole under it. 2 nights later, gunshots rang out again in the courtyard. 3 more days passed, and in the woods outside the house, there were several slightly raised mounds of earth on the ground. Perhaps the frequent gunshots frightened the townspeople, because no one bothered her for the next few days, and Yelena finally got a good night's sleep. On the day agreed upon with the Navy, Yelena put on her cloak and went to the branch office. The day after the iron axe was delivered, the newspaper published news of the mysterious bounty hunter, along with the agreement with the Navy. When Yelena arrived, a number of onlookers were standing far away outside the branch office. Colonel Varacher carried his suitcase out of the branch office, his heart filled with rage. He wanted nothing more than to kill the civilians watching from afar, the reporters mingling inside, and the bastard waiting to collect his money. This is what we've been saving up for. Bring it to you. Yelena didn't want to listen to his nonsense, so she took the money box and counted it in front of everyone. Colonel Varacher was pulled forward by the force, taking 2 steps forward involuntarily and almost falling to the ground. Yes, the money is real, and the quantity matches. It's a pleasure doing business with you. After saying this, Yelena turned and left amidst the applause of the onlookers. Colonel Varacher stared intently at her retreating figure, his teeth nearly breaking. Damn bounty hunters. Yelena left the naval branch and headed towards the city, intending to exchange the money for gold and add it to her weighted suit, just like before. Not long after stepping onto the street, Yelena suddenly felt a chill down her spine, as if she were being watched by something sinister. She turned her head and looked around, but found nothing unusual. After thinking for a moment, I changed my plans and headed towards the beach. But even when I was far away from the crowd, the feeling of being watched didn't disappear. Chapter 29, The Polar Bear's Greeting Gift. Yelena did not stop. She walked along the beach, pondering the source of her gaze. First, we can rule out technological means. According to her understanding, there are very few countries in the entire Beihai region that can achieve this level of remote monitoring, or rather, there are none at all. Observation hacking was also ruled out. At her current level, even if someone used observation hacking to probe her aura face-to-face, she wouldn't be able to detect it. There was no one around, but the feeling of being watched from behind still lingered. She guessed that the person watching her either had the ability to hide or was not on the ground. Yelena quickly looked up, her gaze spanning nearly a kilometer, and saw a black dot. She was too far away to see exactly what the black dot was, but she could guess it was a bird. But if you can see its shadow from that far away, the bird must be quite large. Yelena continued walking forward, and 5 minutes later, she looked up again. The black dot was still in the sky. Now she was finally certain that the bird was the source of the surveillance. A Zoan-type devil fruit user. A beast tamer. She didn't know the guy's exact identity, but could only guess that he wanted to find her hideout, no, her home, by following her. If the other side had any intention to attack, they would have already landed from the air. With that thought in mind, Yelena changed direction and entered the woods north of the beach. Under the cover of the dense foliage, she quickly disappeared from sight. The dark shadow hovered in the sky for more than 10 minutes. Seeing that its target had not appeared, it left behind a few unpleasant screeches and flew towards the town. Yelena hid in the woods for a full 2 hours before suddenly appearing. She looked up at the sky, glanced around, and the dark figure vanished. She closed her eyes, and the feeling of being watched disappeared. She finally relaxed. Who is it? Someone from the White Bear Pirates. Yelena had no answer in her mind, nor did she currently have the ability to deal with the enemy high in the sky. She was also a little worried that if the other party didn't leave so easily next time, wouldn't she have to keep hiding? It seems we need to find a way to solve this problem. That night, just after midnight, Yelena suddenly sat up in bed, turned off the alarm clock, went barefoot to the table, and took out the wanted poster. Finally, the first arrived, and the items refreshed. Identification successful. The attribute acquired this time is Iron Axe's Constitution. Inherit. Physique. Not strength. However, Yelena didn't mind her physical attributes, as this attribute was related to her stamina recovery ability. which was also something she needed. Inherit. Name, Yelena. Age, 14 years old. Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Agility, 10. Constitution, 14, 8 plus 6. Armament, Haki, none. Observation, Haki, none. Conqueror's Haki, beginner, 95%. Skill, court swordsmanship. Devil fruit ability, none. An invisible energy surged through her, and Yelena immediately felt her energy and spirit increase significantly. The drowsiness from being woken up by the alarm clock in the middle of the night disappeared, and the fatigue that had accumulated on her body was swept away. A look of surprise flashed in her eyes. Her constitution had actually increased by 6 points. He imagined Iron Axe being stabbed through the chest by a longsword, spitting out blood while yelling at the top of his lungs, showing no sign of fainting or collapsing. She now realized that, in addition to his immense strength, that guy's physique was also far beyond that of ordinary people. Fortunately, she was followed up with 3 more kicks to the head. Otherwise, the other party might have actually escaped while she was away. The item can only be used once a month. In order not to waste the opportunity, Yelena plans to go out and hunt pirates once a month. The rest of the time was used for training or to gather intelligence in the city. That day, Yelena arrived at the tavern and saw pirates beating up the bartender as soon as she entered, because the pirates dared to charge her for drinks. The word low-key doesn't exist in a pirate's dictionary. You're asking for trouble, aren't you? Do you know who I am? My head is worth 20 million berries. Go ahead and chop it off to pay for it. Upon hearing this, Yelena's eyes immediately lit up with a smile. There's work to be done. She left the tavern silently, went to a secluded corner, and changed her clothes in a second. Damn it, he's got a death wish, daring to take me in. The pirate kicked open the tavern door, cursing, and as soon as half of his body was exposed to the sunlight, whoosh! The longsword pierced his throat in an instant. Completely shut out any more profanity. I'll pay for his drinks. $2,000 bills floated slowly on the floor, and Yelena dragged the pirate away amidst the horrified gazes of everyone in the tavern. After a moment of silence, gasps of surprise echoed from inside the room. It's the black-robed hunter. More than a month later, he's made his move again. When Yelena arrived at the naval branch, she saw on Colonel Valucha's face an expression as if his parents had died and that they had been killed by her. She curled her lip, feeling disgusted. Why are you looking so fierce? It's not like you're the one taking the money out of your own pocket to collect the bounty. This guy is not as generous as Colonel Lind. 20 million berries. Come back in 2 weeks. Colonel Varucha gritted his teeth and spat out these words. Yelena had anticipated this outcome, and not wanting to give him another glance, immediately turned and left. Sending the pirates over was just a side effect. She had other purposes. The black-robed bounty hunter had been out of the public eye for over a month, and his sudden reappearance today is bound to attract attention. Perhaps someone lurking in the shadows will take action. Not long after leaving the naval branch, Yelena once again felt a cold gaze subtly fixed on her. A chill ran through her. They had indeed come. Compared to last time, the visibility was much weaker this time, probably because they intentionally kept their distance. Yelena pretended not to know anything, and without stopping for a moment, she made her way to the designated location through a maze of turns. 2 hours later, she appeared in front of a wooden house hidden in a valley, pushed open the door, and went inside. As afternoon approached, 3 guests arrived in the valley. The person standing at the front was tall, with shoulders almost level with the eaves. He turned his head to look around and walked to a rock more than 2 meters high. He picked up the rock and threw it forcefully towards the wooden house. "This is a gift for you." Boom! The wooden house, built of heavy planks, was no different from a piece of paper in the face of flying stones, and was instantly reduced to ruins. The three waited outside for a while, but no one emerged from the rubble. The shortest of the group spoke first, his tone tinged with smugness. "That guy must be crushed to death. No wonder he's Captain Polar Bear." Faced with the man's confident words, White Bear immediately shook his head. No, he couldn't possibly have been killed like that. "Go check." The last person, the vice captain of the White Bear Pirates, heard the order and went into the ruins to search through them. Not to mention a body, apart from rocks and wood chips, not even a scrap of cloth was found. "Vulture, you've been fooled. This is an empty house, not a bounty hunter's lair." Chapter 30, Vulture. "How is this possible? I saw him walk in with my own eyes," Vulture exclaimed excitedly, wanting to go forward and check. The polar bear stretched out its large paw and pulled the person back. "What are you looking at? The person's already gone." "Waste. They were tricked without even realizing it, and they even made them run around for nothing." "Oh, right. He'll be heading to the Marine branch in 2 weeks. You can lie in ambush nearby and take him out as soon as he shows up. Otherwise, I'll lose another 20 million berries." The vulture's eyes lit up as it came up with a good idea. It immediately shouted at the polar bear, almost spitting its saliva onto the bear's face. Seeing that the polar bear remained silent, he immediately raised his voice. "You bastard, did you hear me? I'm willing to sell out naval intelligence to cooperate with you, all for the sake of making money. I've already lost over 40 million berries. All because of you pirates' incompetence. You must redeem yourselves." Ah! The vulture's words were abruptly cut off in his throat. The grip on his neck tightened, and his face was filled with regret. His eyes were devoid of anger, only a pleading look remained. The polar bear sneered at the person who had just been spouting nonsense in front of him. With just a slight twist of his fingers, he could easily snap the person's neck. "The colonel is really something, actually giving me orders." The polar bear tightened its paws and slammed the person to the ground. Bang! The hard rock floor was dented by the heavy blow, and the vulture got stuck in the crevice, its eyes wide open and silent. The polar bear wondered, when did this guy become so tough? He stepped on the vulture's shin, and a clear cracking sound filled the air, but no screams were heard. Upon closer inspection, it was discovered that the guy had already lost consciousness. "Pooh!" The polar bear, with a contemptuous expression, spat on the vulture. "Useless. It's a waste for someone like you to eat a devil fruit. You'd be better off using that money to supply me." The first mate stepped forward, his gaze towards the vulture filled with the same contempt. "Is this guy still alive? He's still useful to us." The polar bear shook his head. "Zoan-type devil fruit users don't die that easily. It's just a few broken bones. They'll probably regain consciousness by tonight. As a captain, one must keep one's word." He had previously told his subordinates that he would beat him up, and now he has fulfilled his promise. Let's see if this guy dares to be arrogant in front of him again. The first mate hadn't forgotten why he'd come here. He asked in a low voice, "Can we track down that person based on the lingering scent?" The polar bear circled the area before returning to its original spot, giving the first mate a disappointing answer. "I can't do it. There's a smell of blood in every direction. That bounty hunter's a veteran. He's got a knack for hiding." The scene that unfolded in the valley was clearly seen by Yelena, who was hiding on a distant mountaintop through her binoculars. Unfortunately, wiretapping snipes are rare and can't be bought on the market, so she had no way of knowing what those people were saying. Yelena's gaze lingered for a moment on the unconscious Colonel Valukia, her eyes filled with undisguised contempt. How could a Marine be colluding with pirates and even trying to kill me, the bounty hunter who helped them capture pirates? Damn it! She continued to observe the situation below through her binoculars, while the polar bear and the first mate walked out of the valley, leaving Colonel Varacher on the ground. Are they just going to ignore this guy? Yelena didn't move, remaining lying down to observe. An hour later, the two returned, walked around the ruins, found nothing, and left again. Yelena remained lying in the same spot. 2 more hours passed, and the sunlight became less glaring. The polar bear and the first mate returned, this time bringing with them the unconscious Colonel Valukia. Seeing this, Yelena sighed inwardly. With such a low-level tactic as pretending to leave to lure the enemy out, the white bear or the first mate's intelligence was definitely higher than 99% of the pirates. Having read too many comics, she thought that pirates were all idiots who would take attacks head-on, who thought anyone who dodged was a third-rate character, and who would disregard the safety of their comrades when they got carried away with their emotions. Seeing the three leave the valley, Yelena quickly got up and followed, keeping a very long distance between them to avoid being discovered. The first 2 times she was followed, this time she got to experience what it's like to be the follower. I followed them all the way until night fell. Polar Bear arrived near the naval branch, casually tossed Colonel Valucher, whom he was carrying on his shoulder, to the side of the road, clapped his hands, and turned to leave. Sending him here was already an act of great mercy. Once he wakes up, he'll naturally go back home. If he weren't worried about what the Navy might do after the branch colonel's death, he wouldn't have bothered with the life or death of this good-for-nothing. Leaving him in the mountains to feed the wild animals would have been perfect. Half an hour later, Yelena quietly approached and searched the area several times in the dark before finally spotting Colonel Varacher in a patch of grass. They took out a rope and wrapped it around Colonel Varacher's mouth several times to prevent him from suddenly waking up and shouting. Yelena glanced at the naval branch not far away, then quickly led her people away. Outside the branch's gate, the Navy officers on guard duty were dozing off, completely unaware that their superiors were being forced to return and leave right under their noses. Hiss! When Colonel Varacher woke up, he felt pain all over his body, especially in his back and right leg. He moved slightly, and the excruciating pain went straight to his lungs. This is not the worst. Ugh. The excruciating pain made him want to scream, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he found that his lips were tightly bound by the rope, and all his screams were blocked in his throat. He heard a rustling sound in his ears, and with difficulty he looked up, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. The bounty hunter he dreamed of killing was not far away, leisurely digging in the dirt with a shovel. This is an attempt to bury someone alive. Who was buried? That's so hard to guess. You're awake. Perfect timing. I've finished my work here. Hurry up and jump in. Yelena put down the shovel, placed her hand on the hilt of her sword, and fixed her gaze on the person she had tied to the tree. Ugh. Colonel Varacher struggled violently, and the ropes binding him snapped one by one. After breaking free of his restraints, he didn't have time to remove the rope from his mouth. He endured the pain in his right leg and fled to the side. Yelena saw no surprise. After all, he was a naval captain, and it was impossible for him to be completely without any fighting ability. She quickly followed, and just as she was about to pin him to the ground, something unexpected happened. Colonel Varacher's body suddenly began to tremble, his shoulder blades bulged rapidly, and a pair of dark brown wings emerged from them. Ability person. Yelena's expression changed slightly, but her hands didn't stop moving as she threw the longsword with all her might. Whoosh! Colonel Varacher had only been off the ground for 2 or 3 meters, and before the joy on his face could even show, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back, and his whole body flew forward uncontrollably. Bang! The longsword pinned Colonel Valucher to a tree trunk dozens of meters away. Chapter 31. The Death of the Vulture. So you're the one who was following me before, the bird fruit, the ability of convenience. Yelena came to the tree, but did not draw her sword. She wanted to see if the person nailed to the tree could escape. As it turns out, it is possible. Colonel Varacher's body swelled rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, his size more than doubled, forcibly pushing himself off the tree trunk. Yelena's gaze gradually turned serious. With a single strike, the white bear knocked Colonel Valucher unconscious. She stabbed him, and although she didn't aim for his heart, it was a genuine penetrating wound that didn't render him conscious. This demonstrates just how powerful the physique of Zoan-type devil fruit users is. This further proves the polar bear's extraordinary strength. God-damn bounty hunter. I'm going to kill you. Seeing Yelena standing there blankly staring at him after losing her weapon, Colonel Varacher suddenly felt a surge of confidence. He's a Zoan-type devil fruit user. Dealing with a swordsman without a sword shouldn't be a problem for him. Yelena lifted her wide cloak and drew a brand new longsword from her waist. Right. Colonel Varacher did not hesitate and turned to flee. Once in his beastman form, he was nearly twice as fast as in his normal state, and in the blink of an eye, he had escaped more than 10 meters away. We must create some distance before flying, otherwise we'll get pinned to the tree trunk again like before. Boom! Colonel Varacher's back spurted out a spray of blood, and he staggered forward uncontrollably. Gah! Yelena frowned in disgust. This guy's devil fruit ability looked ugly, and his voice was particularly unpleasant. However, it was quite sturdy. Bullets powerful enough to kill a bison only left a shallow wound on him. Yelena stepped forward and held her sword to Colonel Valucher's neck. There are some questions I want answered. With a slight exertion of force, the sharp blade sliced through the feather, making direct contact with the skin. Gah, please tell me. I will answer truthfully. Colonel Varacher's body trembled uncontrollably. Faced with the threat of death, he dared not lie for a moment. First of all, shut the hell up. What kind of bird call is that? It's awful. Gah, I can't control it. I only ate the devil fruit 3 months ago, so I'm not very familiar with its abilities. Your voice isn't much better than mine. Colonel Varacher's head was pressed against the ground, his eyes filled with malice. This guy has an awful voice, so he must be ugly too. Otherwise, why would they wrap themselves up so tightly? Fortunately, Yelena couldn't hear his thoughts. Otherwise, she wouldn't even need to interrogate him. She could just kill him. 3 months, huh? Some people can already make a fortune with their abilities right after eating a devil fruit. Never mind, why bother telling you all this? What I need to know is... A few minutes later, the jumbled questions in Yelena's mind were finally answered one by one. Shortly after taking up his post at the naval branch on Noti's Island, Colonel Valucher colluded with pirates, profiting by selling out naval intelligence. He amassed wealth through corruption, cut back on branch funds, reduced soldiers' pay, and even diverted funds directly from the maintenance costs of warships. Any righteous naval officers who dared to raise objections would have their whereabouts leaked and would die tragically at the hands of pirates. Over time, he even set his sights on the special funds for dealing with pirates. When a bounty hunter came to the branch to collect his bounty, he outwardly agreed, but secretly contacted the pirates to kill the person and pocketed the bounty. Over time, he made a lot of money. I was ambushed by the Iron Axe pirates as soon as I arrived on Noti's Island. It turns out you were the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. Yelena pressed the blade down slightly, and blood instantly spurted out. No, absolutely not. Although I instructed Polar Bear to do it, he didn't send anyone. Colonel Varacher admitted to having done many bad things, but he refused to accept any slander. The blade did not move. Colonel Varacher's voice grew even more flustered. You have to believe me, everything I'm saying is true. At first, he tried to tell lies to fool the other party, but as a result, 3 more holes appeared on his back. Animal-type healers recover quickly, but that doesn't mean they won't die, much less that they're immune to pain. How could he dare to lie now? You admit that you notified the Polar Bear. Swish. Yelena sheathed her longsword, and the person on the ground completely lost consciousness. She dragged the body to the pit she had dug earlier, and was about to throw it down when she suddenly felt that it was not safe. What if it was dug out? The death of a colonel is no small matter. Let's just burn it. As her ashes were scattered into the sea, Yelena finally breathed a sigh of relief. Why isn't this guy a pirate? He has amazing abilities. He's a bit ugly, but he can fly. If he could fly in his past life, he wouldn't have been pushed off a mountain and died. Yelena greatly admired Colonel Valukia's devil fruit ability. The 2 points of strength attribute she gained from that pirate, with a bounty of 20 million that morning, were nothing compared to the bird fruit, which was a huge watermelon. Killing Colonel Valucha yielded no apparent rewards, not even a single gold coin. All the money he had embezzled over the years had gone into the hands of the Don Quixote family, in exchange for a devil fruit. Zoan type, bird fruit, vulture form. 300 million berries. What's the point of this guy eating the fruit? It's a complete waste of money. Yelena echoed the sentiments of Captain Polar Bear. However, the way Colonel Varacher purchased the fruit is worth noting. The Don Quixote family's influence has even reached the North Sea. Thinking about it carefully, it's not surprising that Doflamingo, who came from the North Sea, would send people to organize smuggling and trade in this area. Yelena made a mental note of this. If you have the chance, you can go to their stronghold and uproot the nail that Doflamingo has planted in the North Sea. Considerate interest he paid in advance. 3 days later, a major news story was published in the newspaper of the World Economic News Agency's North Sea branch. Naval Commander Valcher of the Nautilus Island branch has gone missing. He is suspected of being assassinated by pirates. Bang! The polar bear slammed his paw down on the table in front of him, smashing it to pieces. Useless. They even sent people to the vicinity of the naval branch, and yet something still happened. What a useless piece of trash. Does he have to be a pirate who sneaks into the marine branch in the middle of the night, delivers Valucha to his room, and gently places him on the bed to ensure his safety? He'd rather slap someone to death. The first mate picked up the newspaper from the floor and offered his opinion. It's very likely that the bounty hunter did it. Ordinary pirates don't have this ability, but he has both the strength and the motive. Most importantly, the timing was perfect. They had just finished tracking each other when the vulture disappeared, and he couldn't believe there was no connection between the 2 events. Polar Bear casually remarked, it could also be the work of some Navy officer who harbors resentment towards Vulture. That bastard has offended everyone in the branch. Even if it really was the black-robed hunters who did it, do they have any evidence? Would the Navy believe a pirate's words? Hopefully, the Navy officer who replaces Vulture will also be a greedy guy. That way we'll have far fewer troubles. Chapter 32, The New Navy Captain. A week later, the branch's naval personnel stood in neat rows on the dock to welcome their superior. Yelena mingled with the crowd watching the commotion from the back. She will inevitably have to deal with the Navy in the future, and hopes that the newcomer will be of upright character, at least not as greedy as the former colonel. This will make it much more convenient to collect the reward from the branch. On the sea, the outline of the warship gradually became clear, and soon it was steadily moored at the largest berth of the dock. Yelena stood on tiptoe and found that it was difficult to see the situation on the warship from her current height. She squeezed out of the crowd, looked around, and chose a spot with a wide view. Not long after they had settled down, several people wearing grey cloaks walked over, stood against the wall in the shadows, and stared intently at the warship not far away. Upon seeing this attire, Yelena couldn't help but twitch her lips. Didn't these people realize how conspicuous they were in the crowd? Why not buy a straw hat and wear it on your head? It'll make you doubly conspicuous, and maybe even help you hide. Noticing Yelena's gaze, one of them glared at her fiercely. "What are you looking at?" As he spoke, he reached for his waist, seemingly about to draw his sword. Someone grabbed his shoulder, and a deep, powerful female voice came from beneath the cloak. "Mad dog, when are you going to stop biting people indiscriminately? Don't disturb the boss's show." The mad dog struggled fiercely, but could not budge the large hand, so it had to give up drawing its knife. He glared at Yelena again. "Get out." Yelena flinched, pretending to be frightened, and ran to another location. Surprise flashed in her eyes. She hadn't expected to encounter the White Bear pirates here. The guy who wanted to draw his sword and kill someone just by looking at him was Mad Dog, the captain of the second ship under White Bear. As for the person who stopped the Mad Dog, he wasn't facing Yelena directly, so she couldn't see his face clearly. She guessed that he might be the captain of the first ship, the female pirate known to the outside world as Warhammer. He looks quite strong. No wonder he almost destroyed the Iron Axe pirate's ship. Yelena stood at a distance, her gaze sweeping over them once more. That powerful aura, there's no mistake. The polar bear himself was among them. What are they doing here? Attending the welcoming ceremony for the naval captain. The entire naval branch of Notties Island. Booms boom. On shore, the Navy's welcoming words were only halfway through when the sound of artillery fire suddenly came from afar. A pirate ship rounded the rock wall on the east side of the dock and came into view. What kind of damn Navy is this? I'm going to cause trouble when you take office and show you who's not to be messed with in this area. The pirate captain stood at the bow of the ship, laughing wildly. Fire. The cannonballs intended as a demonstration missed their target, so he ordered the ship to continue firing. The cannons were pointed directly at the crowd on the shore. Boom. 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 Not good. Run. The onlookers were in complete chaos. Just then, a roar erupted from the warship. Evil pirates. With me here, you won't harm any civilians. A white figure swiftly leaped onto the railing, swinging its longsword forward with all its might. Whoosh! A dazzling slash flew out, slicing several incoming shells evenly in half. Bangs bang! The shells exploded on the sea surface, without affecting the civilians on the shore in the slightest. However, the shells and such are no longer worth worrying about. The people of Noties had never seen anything like this before, and they stood there stunned, forgetting even to run away. Yelena's expression changed drastically. A flying slash. As fellow swordsmen, she was still at the stage where ranged attacks relied entirely on firearms, while others could actually turn their slashing sword attacks into waves. What's the point of a navy with this kind of strength coming to the North Sea? Shouldn't the branch officers be at the level of Colonel Lind? Skipping grades is prohibited. but this guy's sword-wielding style looks familiar. After cutting the cannonball, the newly appointed naval captain did not stop. He gripped the sword hilt tightly with both hands and began to gather his strength. Right-angled bird. Whoosh! The slash curved rapidly in the air, each curve forming a perfect 90-degree angle, and flew dozens of meters in the blink of an eye, accurately striking the pirate ship not far away. Click! To everyone's horror, the pirate ship was cleaved in two. I remember now. Right-angle swordsmanship, he's T. Pen. Yelena's eyes flashed with envy as she replayed that stunning strike in her mind. No wonder he's called the ship-slicing hero. He really can cut ships in half. A true man should be like this, able to take his place. Cough, cough, a swordsman should have this kind of demeanor, and she will be able to do it sooner or later. Elsewhere, the surprise on Polar Bear's face faded, and he turned to look at the strongest swordsman in his pirate crew. Can you do it? The mad dog's eyes became much clearer. Seeing the cowardly look on his subordinates' faces, the polar bear knew the answer all too well. He looked at his companions and earnestly instructed them. Pass the word down that all looting activities must cease for the foreseeable future. We need to fade from the Navy's sight. The group was taken aback. Had even the captain chickened out? No matter how powerful the Navy is, can it be stronger than the captain? Looking at his foolish subordinates, White